Jenny, I am so excited to meet you. I first became aware of you. First of all, let me just, all right, I'm doing this all backwards. This is Jenny's book, Dr. Jennie Young, who wrote Burn the Haystack, which is coming out now. Um, but you also created a Facebook page
Mhm.
called the Burned Haystack Method. And I didn't find it on Facebook. I came across you, I guess, on Instagram afterwards.
Mhm.
And as I was, and let's just say first of all, you are a professor of rhetoric
Mhm.
and feminist studies.
Yeah.
So, like two of my favorite things, like a Reese's peanut butter cup forged together.
Those two things go together really well,
I
right?
mean,
Like,
really
yeah.
well, and you prove it so well in here. But I kept thinking as I was watching your videos, they kept popping up in my feed. I wish I'd had Dr. Jenny when I was on the app stating. Take us through a little bit how this all happened. I know you formed a Facebook group, and then what happened?
Yeah, so I didn't even yeah, I mean, I did form a Facebook group, but just attached to my own account, and it's a private group. And initially, I just wanted a place for a man-free place for women to talk about dating and to kind of help me like tweak this method and test some things out. And meanwhile, I was writing about it myself.
Mhm.
And it it was the article that I wrote for HuffPost that
Yeah.
set the whole thing on fire.
And you had like hundreds of thousands of women joining the group, and in the book at some point you said you were just like clicking on accept, 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 let in.
Yeah, that first day. Yeah, when the HuffPost article went up, I think there were, around 1,000 women in the group, and then it just kind of took off and hasn't stopped.
Well, there's not a single woman that I know that is dating right now that doesn't talk I mean, this is a cultural phenomenon.
Oh,
There's not a
thank you.
single that no woman that I know that is dating right now that doesn't talk about this, that uses the phrase that you created, block to burn.
Mhm.
Just tell me what the basis, I know what it is, but tell us all what the basis of block to burn is. What is the burned haystack method doing? What is it?
Mhm. So prior to Burned Haystack, I was on the apps too, and I was searching for advice online because I was like, this isn't working. And all the advice I was running into was telling women to first of all, there was nothing addressing how truly horrible the experience was. And
Right,
that in itself is a little bit of gaslighting or a
right.
lot of gaslighting, right? That wasn't like already out there as a cultural conversation in a widespread way. That everybody was sort of acting like, well, this is just how it is. This is how this thing runs, and we're just going to go along with it. So that was a problem. And then the advice I was running into kept encouraging me to like be better and skinnier and more cheerful and more chill and more fun and all these things. And I was like, I don't know. I wasn't looking for advice on how to change my personality. Like, I thought this modality didn't work. That's what I wanted advice on, but that wasn't out there. So it was a bunch of stuff telling me how to change, and then also encouraging me to give all these men the benefit of the doubt, to somehow like read past their very horrifying words and actions and assume something better out of thin air, I guess. And I realized like that's really bad advice. It's not just bad advice. It's harmful, dangerous advice.
Yeah.
So, it proceeds from that metaphor. You're trying to find a needle in a haystack. And I thought instead of like picking through every little piece of hay, we should be burning that haystack to the ground. And then the needles will just appear
And
because
what does
metal
that
doesn't.
look like on a dating app? That just means blocking people that you know you don't want to have them recur in your feed, correct?
Right, right. So yeah, we take control of like the process, I mean, emotionally, but also algorithmically that
Right.
way. We need to like beat the apps themselves.
Right. And I mean, chapter 5 here is all about the red flag rhetorical patterns. And I think it's important to talk about some of these because these are things that when I guess I went on the dating apps. I got separated in 2013. I think I joined Hinge on the advice of my son around
Okay.
2014, 2015. And I
Yeah.
was literally horrified. I ended up writing about it for, a now defunct magazine called cafe.com. But I had a folder on my computer called Tinder Sadness, which was just like all these profiles that I just thought, how on earth is this real? How on earth am I
Right.
supposed to sift through this insanity?
Mhm.
And then it really came to a head when I finally went on a date and the person said they were in their 50s and I got to the bar and this person was way past 70 at least. He was drunk. He had lied about everything. And he had told me he lived in Brooklyn. And then when I got to the date, he said he had driven down from Vermont for the date and he was expecting to stay with me that
Oh
night.
God.
And I just like looked at him and I said, "How is this a date if you've lied on your profile? Like, if we're going to begin this with a lie." And then he
Right.
actually followed me into the subway and tried to kiss me. So there is danger of in going on these dates and trying to be fun and trying to be, oh, don't take it too seriously. No, no, you do have to take it seriously.
Mhm.
There is
Right.
sexual assault that can happen
Yeah.
at the
Right.
end of a bad date.
Right.
So, I mean, some of these things, let's go through a few of these because one of them, like, test and apologize. And Jim says, "Hello, how are you? I'm getting a bone. Is getting a boner looking at someone's photo a compliment?" And then, like 2 seconds later, he writes, "I'm sorry, that was inappropriate. Well, you look like you have a sense of humor." So and I found this all the time where some guy would write some like really gross text
Mhm.
and then, "Oops, sorry, I didn't mean it."
Right.
Like, what is this? What is going on here?
Well, I mean, it's a boundary violation. It's a
Yeah.
test to see, if women are going to be okay being objectified. But then that apology comes in to sort of like soften whatever they've already done, and also to build in this like somehow plausible deniability that I'm not really a bad guy. I was just, whatever, so taken with your beauty. Um, but yeah, the test is real. The apology is not real. And the important thing rhetorically there is that if someone is kicking off a relationship by objectifying you and violating your boundaries, that's probably going to be an abusive
Yeah.
person on some level. That's what abuse is. Abuse is a system and a set of boundary violations that starts out very low key, like so low key it could be, a joke, but that escalates over time. It's like the proverbial, frog being boiled in water and not noticing until it's too late.
And you
So
talk
we cut
about
that off like
right.
immediately.
And you talk about some guy named Harold that, had his a dick pic. I mean, and this is a real thing too that women experience. Anyone
Yeah.
that is not, is listening to this that hasn't been on the apps, these are things that women experience, or just these photos of penises that appear on your screen
Yeah. This
that you
guy
give.
Harold got his past the Bumble filters
I know.
somehow. Yeah.
And some woman with internalized misogyny, which you study,
Hmm.
gave you shit for taking Harold to task.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that you say. It would again because you both teach both rhetoric and feminism and internalized misogyny. What was interesting to me that you even started off this book with your own internalized misogyny,
Hmm.
saying, "I'm embarrassed to write this book." No, actually, I'm not embarrassed to write this book.
Right.
Talk to me. Talk to
Right.
me about that.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's called internalized misogyny because we've all internalized it. We're starting to become aware of it now so we can catch ourselves, but the internalized part is the important part because it just resides within us. We're all subject to these social scripts and this like water we swim in. So of course we've internalized it and we have to actively work to rhetorically, we would use it to say denaturalize. We have to denaturalize these misogynistic patterns that we all believe on some level, even if we catch ourselves. And yeah, I started out thinking nobody's going to care about this. It's not important to the world, and it's just a women's issue, and that's all bullshit.
It's total bullshit. I
Mhm.
actually think books like this and ideas like this are taking rhetoric and feminism to another level because
Yeah.
it is the marriage of two forms of thought that will actually be useful to women. And we are,
Mhm.
again, I want to mention danger. I mean, being on a dating app feels dangerous too. You're meeting strangers. You're meeting people that, again, let me go back. I went on another date where the guy had 6 shots of tequila within the first hour of being on this date and then said, "Well, I thought I was going home with you." I mean, over and over and over again. And these people seemed normal on the dating apps. Although now I wish I had this book so I could have maybe reread their profiles in light
Right.
of rhetorical pattern one, test and apologize. Rhetorical pattern two, are you my mother? I love that one because men say, "Oh, I just need someone to take care of me."
Yeah.
Rhetorical pattern three, I'm a very busy man. How many times did I see that? Rhetorical
Yeah.
pattern four, disciplinary directive. These are things that are incredibly important to
Mhm.
keep women safe.
Yeah, and I mean the bottom line, and this is depressing, but it's also true, being partnered with men is dangerous.
Yeah,
Statistically, that's who hurts women,
yeah,
is the men with whom they're intimately partnered. So dating app, the arena of dating app culture is even more dangerous because we're talking about men you don't even know, like stranger men who don't know anyone in your circle or your family or your workplace. So yeah, it's not hyperbolic to say that the number one goal of Burn Haystack is simply to protect women. Like that has to happen before anything good can happen.
absolutely. And I would say, I guess I left the dating apps because I had had too many bad experiences. I had some good experiences. I want to say I've had some
Yeah,
good
yeah.
experiences.
Mhm.
But I had too many bad experiences, and my partner, who I adore and feel very lucky to have met in 2022, was somebody that was introduced to me by a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And
And it,
I
yeah.
wonder if we were not going to, I mean, at this point, I am actually actively trying to set up my middle-aged friends, divorced friends,
Mhm.
as much as I can, because I just, maybe having this book out in the world will actually make it safer, but I do feel like there is something very problematic about dating apps, and I don't know if we've solved them.
Yeah, I mean the apps are inherently commodifying and objectifying for sure. They're also just a microcosm of the population. The difference is you're just exposed to much more of it, right? Like you're going to meet people through a dating app that you would never cross paths with
Right, that's true.
in real life, and some of them aren't even real. They're scam operations in other countries or they're bots or
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
So, what has been your experience since having come up with this method? Are you still on the dating apps? Are you out there using your methods to find, to burn, block to burn and finding better dates this way?
So I was on the apps at the beginning of the project, and then I'm also still working full time, which is a little bit insane. After like as things picked up, and I was trying to like moderate the social media and write the book and have a full time job, something had to go,
Yeah,
and that was my dating life. So I took myself off the apps. I made a kind of a deal with the women in my community that, because I did feel kind of bad for like not having skin in the game for a lot of the, you
right.
know, duration of when I was talking about it, that I would give it another try once I handed over the book manuscript. So I did. I got back on the apps in June, this past June, and I met my current partner in July.
Oh, nice.
And
So
yeah,
it
and
was
so I've
fast.
been off the apps for a while now. Yeah, and I'm deliriously happy, like happier than I would have ever thought I could be. And it
So
was a strict application of burnt haystack. I couldn't take any chances with that. Yeah.
yeah, and so tell me a little bit. You don't have to give me exact wording, but what about his profile struck you as having zero red flags, zero
Yeah.
rhetorical issues?
Yeah, so I mean that was number one, there were no rhetorical patterns
Yeah.
in his profile. And it was otherwise appealing. Like it was completely filled out, but not overly filled out. You could tell a real person wrote it. The pictures were great. I found him right. I think, all women are internet sleuths, right? Even with a first name, I found him like that. He'd been a school principal for years, so he was kind of like out there, and I found principal awards he'd won and stuff like that. He's currently a teacher. Um, I was doing my own little experiment on the apps at that point where I was writing opening move questions that were designed to elicit certain rhetorical information. And he responded to one of those, and the question was something like this: If AI really does usher in the apocalypse, what special skills do you bring to the situation? And I wrote that one to weed out the men who would make it immediately sexual, which, to be clear, was the majority of
Yeah.
them. I read a lot of horrifying responses, but again, efficiency, right? Black to burn. His response to that said, I guess I'd have to say algebra. We won't need it the same way we don't need it now, but maybe someday someone will want it and I'll be there. And I just liked that. There was like a voice and a self-deprecation and some humor and like a lack of pushiness, but a willingness to help and all of that. Like that's who he is,
Right.
to a T.
Also, a
Yeah.
willingness to engage in the
Yeah.
question you ask and not try to
Right.
turn it into some sex question.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when is this book actually coming out? What is the pub date?
April 7th.
Oh, so very soon. And then you're going to go on
Yes.
a tour and talk to more women.
Yep.
I have a feeling what you're going to find out in real life, rather because you've been stuck behind a screen with this,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That you are going to find women coming up to you and crying. I do think that this has become a very emotional issue for so many women, and particularly those of us who got divorced. I mean, I was in a 23-year marriage and got divorced, and
Mhm.
then I actually met my second partner on Bumble, and we stayed together for 4 years. And it turns out lying, cheating, drug
Yeah.
addiction, so there are so many women in midlife trying to rebuild and
Mhm.
trying to find love. And what I loved about what you wrote here is that love is not just a girly thing. Love is not just a female thing.
Yeah.
Love is as necessary to the human body, psyche, and physiology as food, water, sleep. And we don't talk about that enough.
We don't. It's also the foundational structure of all of
Of
civilization.
course, like
We don't
babies.
talk about it that way either,
Yeah.
but it's true. So it should matter. Yeah.
And I think also because we are now living through, I mean, A2 Cesar Chavez, like we are living through a moment where just the horrors of the male species are coming through to us day after day after day, that to have this sort of sense of I can control this, I can find pockets
Yeah.
of safety through rhetoric,
Hmm.
through recognizing the red flags, through recognizing these rhetorical patterns, seems to me like the most needed piece of literature I can ever imagine for all my female friends. I'm going to buy them all this book when it comes
Oh,
out.
thank you. Well, and the other, you're right. Like we need all those things, but also the power of the community itself is
Yes.
hugely important, right? And the more women who start, flip their mindset and start thinking about it in burned haystack terms, not only will they be more individually protected and happier and healthier, but we will reach a critical mass, and this is already beginning to happen, that shifts the landscape of dating. And that's like, I want to change things, right?
Right.
Well,
So
like we
your
have, and we're
goal,
going to,
yeah,
yeah.
your goal in this is literally to change the way Americans or maybe hopefully others date
Yeah.
as well. Has this
Mhm.
gone international or is it much
Oh
more?
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think our number one city is, well, it's probably New York, but Sydney, Australia is huge. I mean, in all the English speaking countries, so in the UK and Ireland, in Australia, and a lot of non-English, primarily English speaking countries too. So yeah, where there's going to be translations.
And how do you deal with, I imagine you must have online an influx of messages, an influx of people wanting your attention. What are
Yeah.
what are your rules about that? How do you deal with that? Because I know even on a small scale, I sometimes can't answer people. I often can't answer people. People get mad at you. How do you deal with trying to answer everyone while still maintaining a job as a professor and a
Yeah.
life.
Right. I mean, so the short answer to that is I can't
Yeah,
keep up with it anymore. I mean, I do say real clearly, like in the Facebook group, no DMs, and people send me DMs all day long.
right,
I answer as much as I can. I'm as active in the Facebook group as it's possible for me to be, and on Instagram and Substack. But yeah, and I think people think that I like have people. I don't have any
right.
people.
Me neither. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's me.
So that, maybe someday, but yeah, right now it is just me. Now I have a fantastic team at HarperCollins. Like I'm getting support there that I wouldn't have
Right,
conceived of in my wildest dreams since I'd only done academic publishing before. It's a whole
right.
different world. Um, but yeah, I don't have any employees or anything. So
And so what was the experience of writing this book like compared to writing for an academic audience?
well, I mean, number one, for an academic audience, it's you're talking to a very narrow, small population, and you just don't like everything you do is like you just do by yourself, like the
Right,
editing, the hashing out of ideas. I've been really, really lucky to have like the most awesome all women badass team of feminists at HarperCollins. So it that's very much part of like what's driving the community
right.
now too in terms of like how we welcomed people into the book and how we're using the book as a vehicle to talk to women and continue to build this movement and just stuff I never could have done on my own or would have even known to do on my own.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And
Yeah.
I guess my last question would be, this is a large book. I want everybody to read all of it, but if you were to sort of titrate it down, what is the most important thing, most important message you could tell women about dating in 2026?
Learn the rhetorical patterns and rely upon your understanding of that rather than like a vibe or like chemistry or how something like hits you. Like learn the patterns so that you understand what it is you're seeing and get super clear-eyed about that. And that's why the book is nice because it's finally a reference, right?
Right,
Instead of like thinking, am I missing something? It can all be right in front of everybody, and then trust the process. Like when I got on the apps, I did not have a strong feeling that it was going to work for me. Partly because I thought anybody who figures out what I do now is not going to want to date me, right? Like I don't know that I would have dated me, to be honest. But
right.
um I didn't go into it like feeling optimistic and having a good attitude. For one thing, that's not who I am. And I'm not like horribly negative either, but I'm very pragmatic and I'm kind of a stone cold realist.
Right.
But I did believe in the method and I worked the process and I relied on the rhetorical patterns and it worked out.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking time out to talk with me. This is called Burn the Haystack by Dr. Jennie Young, who is a hero of mine, and I feel very
Oh,
lucky to have gotten a chance to talk to you. Stay on the line 1 second,
yeah.
and I will hit pause. Hold on one
Okay.
second.